Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this Saturday night, April 1st, 2023. It is about 10:13 here in the evening in Northern California. Notice the West Coast still lighting up out here from Southern Cal all the way up, looks like off the coast of Canada. So let's go ahead and see what's going on here across the map here. Southern California lighting up a little bit in the red circles. Some earthquake activity kind of ramping up around the Palomar Observatory. This is where the four-pointer came in yesterday. Since then, well, we've seen a handful of aftershocks, including, looks like another 3.1 there in the mix, and many other smaller quakes. This could go on for a little while. I remember last year we were seeing a pretty good sizable earthquake swarm out here with no main quake. It died off for a few months, and it looks like it may be back. Overall trend, though, of uptick out here in Southern California along the plate boundary. Just shy of the plate boundary. The San Andreas Fault not looking too active here as far as earthquake activity goes, but definitely over here on the Pacific side with these fault systems, San Jacinto Fault Zone and just off the Elsinore Fault, showing some elevated activity today. Also, one earthquake up north of Riverside, looks like a 1.2. Some smaller quakes out here around the Los Angeles jungle as well. A couple smaller quakes. Looks like all under 1.2 in this area. All right, let's see. Ridgecrest area, seeing a little bit of smaller quakes as well. Let's see if we got anything major going on across the Bay Area. Up here on it's going to be the Hayward Fault. Outside of the San Leandro area, seeing some small quake activity. Of course, they did have a 3.0 early this morning. A couple other aftershocks in there as well. All this activity literally striking within an hour of each other. Nothing since then, though. Since about 10 o'clock. That was the last earthquake there. So either way, continue to watch it. We do get these little areas of uptick from time to time. But we'll continue to watch it and see how it goes. Blanco fracture zone, this earthquake coming in this afternoon of 4.2 off the coast of Oregon and away from the actual fracture area. So a little odd. Also down here into the Gorda Escarpment, that earthquake here this morning of 3.5. The earthquake further up north, this is the more recent one, just shy of the northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone of 4.6. Right in the middle of the, Explorer Plate. Or if you want to call this whole plate the Juan de Fuca Plate, it'd be at the northern end of the Juan de Fuca Plate. Again, just shy here of the Cascadia at the northern end of that subduction zone. Not a whole lot of activity throughout the state of Washington. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor map here tonight and see what we got for the Cascadia Tremor. Looks like a little 28 epicenters of tremor, a little bit here up north of Seattle, and also into Northern California once again. So not a whole lot of tremor. It's very minimal, but that could explain some of the activity we're seeing out here. Why we're getting some earthquake activity upstream and away from the plate boundary with barely minimal tremor activity is a little puzzling. That leads me to believe that maybe this plate is just about as sprung up, I guess, as a term you could use. I'm sure it can obviously, subduct some more, but it seems as though things are tense with the Cascadia currently, with the activity that we're seeing back prior to the subduction zone. Some of the activity that we've seen in the southern end of the Cascadia last few days, we had a pretty good swarm of activity here. All this deeper movement, 16 to 24 kilometers deep into the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust area. Also had some activity off the coast of Oregon in this region as well. Put 2 and 2, maybe 4 and 4, whatever numbers you want to throw up. Looks like maybe we could be getting ready to see some earthquake activity out here somewhere. There has been times when we'll see deeper movement quakes well below the tremor area. Sometimes the tremor down there, which is typical around 35, 45 kilometers deep. Let me bring up the tremor map again. This activity is occurring down into the subduction zone, down dip of the plate boundary, which is right here. This is the subduction zone area. Doesn't show it here on this map, but obviously you can see here on the USGS map the Cascadia fold and thrust belt. This is where the Juan de Fuca plate is being subducted to the east underneath the North American plate. So the tremor occurs down dip here, more right on the map. But we have seen some times where the tremor kind of gets locked, so to speak. And we'll see some deeper, larger earthquakes down dip of the Cascadia. There's been some, I can't remember the exact time or how long it's been, but that might be a good thing to check out. Let me see here. We're gonna go 5.5 should do it. I'm kind of curious to see when the last deeper quake was out here. We're just gonna go back to about 1900, and we're gonna draw a little area out here on the map to see where we can see if we can find some of the deeper movement quakes. Northern California, obviously, we get a lot of earthquake activity here within that region, so I don't want to key up too much activity there, but I do want to check out the inland areas and see what we got for deeper movement quakes that could extend even maybe possibly a little bit further east. Let's see what we got. All right, so we didn't overload the computer too much. Some of these deeper earthquakes here, let's see. Willow Creek, there's a bunch here in Northern California. So let me see what we got here. These are relatively shallow around the Klamath Falls area, but I could have swore they had a deeper movement quake out here at one point. I wonder what happened to it. All right, up here outside of Salem, that's 19 kilometers deep, somewhat above the tremor area. As far as this region up here goes, see, here's some of those deeper movement quakes down below the typical tremor zone, remember, which is 35, 45 kilometers deep. Here was a 6.8 back in 2001. I remember this. It did some damage at the surface, but not quite as much as what it could have been had it been a shallower earthquake. But this earthquake here, occurring down dip of the tremor, this is 51 kilometers deep. And this, I'd like to know what the tremor was like in 2001. As you notice, tremor is relatively a new thing here, so we can't go back that far, at least according on this map here. You click on all data, that's all it gives me, unfortunately. So there has been some deeper movement quakes over 20 years ago, though. There was a 5.8, 40 kilometers deep still, but within that tremor range, 35, 45 kilometers for the tremor. 5.8. There was a 6.7. By the way, 5.8 was back in 1999. There was a 6.7 in 1949, 50 kilometers deep. See, this is where the tremor gets caught up, so to speak, to where, something's getting shoved down, or something's getting locked down there into the tremor zone, because tremor is somewhat of a natural occurrence, right, in the subduction zone term of things, right? The plate's going to be subducted underneath the underneath a certain plate. In this case, it's going to be the North American plate, Cascadia. So I think something stuck down there. And the reason also why I say that is because we haven't seen any elevated tremor activity here. Notice that? Here's the tremor lines. These are more intense. The number of tremor activity on a given day was much higher during these spikes. Notice that on the graph. It seems like they occur, they're variable, but it does seem like it occurs every few months or so. And you notice we're entering into a huge gap of hardly any tremor out here. And there is some, a little here and there, but goodness. So with very minimal tremor, earthquake activity kind of ramping up. Let me go back here to the map. Prior to the subduction zone, that tells me that things are, I think, locked. Obviously, they're locked up here at the subduction zone level, but I think we're going to see possibly a deeper, larger quake here soon. Possibly similar to what we've seen up here. in the prior years. Let me see what else we got here. 6.8, 2001. That was the last one. Let's see what else we have here. These all look like they're deeper quakes in this area. All of them. 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers. Last one, 2001, 1999, 1965, 1949, 1939. I would say we're coming up on that time frame where we could see something very similar. And this tremor activity coming to a halt like that over the past few months could be an indicator of something about ready to, well, happen down there. You know, it looks like the largest was at 6.8, right? 2001, over 20 years ago. Mount St. Helens, not really worried about that. That was volcanic. See what we got up here. Sometimes we get deeper movement quakes as well, but not quite as deep as what we've seen down there in Washington. A couple deeper quakes, 1920, 1915, about 19 kilometers or so below the surface. But this area specifically has me a little concerned that we may see that repeat itself. Just looking at this time frame here, these intervals look like they should be coming up rather soon. So put a couple different scenarios together here. Over 20 years and minimal tremor. Seems like we should have seen one of these spikes up here by now, but we haven't. So it's a little odd here. We have seen some tremor activity, but it doesn't look like. Here's the last month of activity. Goodness, that's very minimal. Week of activity. But when you look at the all data, you know, it's just missing the that line. Okay. So we'll keep an eye on things up here in the Cascadia and see how it plays out. Remember that tremor is, it can kind of get stuck down there. Something's holding it up. But that pressure's got to go somewhere. We're either going to see that a little bit deeper movement quakes, or we're going to see a larger one out here on the Cascadia itself. We'll kind of keep an eye on it. It's kind of developing, right? If you really think about it, I've never really seen anything like that, where the tremor has been halted for quite a few months. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Getting away from that. Yellowstone, not a whole lot going on, but remember, it's the weekend. Only 2.5 and above will be reported. Anything below that, we'll have to wait till Monday morning when they sit down and they check out the graphs there, the USGS folks there at Yellowstone. So, what do we have here? This was from early this morning, late last night. Looks as though the swarm has kind of died off here throughout the evening and afternoon time period. So, not a whole lot going on as we speak. But again, these swarms can come and go, as we all know. All right, moving on. Texas area. A couple smaller quakes throughout the day today. Let's see if we got anything major going on out here across the globe. Definitely pretty active. West Coast pretty active out here. A little bit of movement off the coast of Mexico. Looks like they're along the Middle America Trench as well. Some smaller quakes in the 4 range. Seeing some 4s and 3s and 2s and some deeper movement quakes across the South America region. Let's see here. Still waiting for some activity out here around the trench zones of the Vanuatu area. We did see that super deep earthquake here come in to the area early this morning. Actually, we had 2 of them, 4.7 and a 4.9. Both of those well below 600 kilometers deep. I'm waiting for some potential activity up here around the Santa Cruz Mountains. Not for sure what we have here for large-scale events out there. I'm kind of curious. It is a very active zone. But let's just go back here and see what we've had in the last 2000. Let's go back to 1950. I'm just kind of curious. And Vanuatu area, just specifically though, into the trench region, and I believe. Let me see, make sure I'm in the right spot. Was I? Let me double check. I want to make sure I'm getting the right area over here. Going to be just south of the Santa Cruz Islands. It's been a long day, let me tell you folks. Over here. All right. We'll key this up and see what we got for some larger movement quakes here in the trench. All right. Ooh, some big ones. Largest magnitude looks to be an 8.0. That is kind of upstream here of that trench area. Back in 2013, had some 7s here, 7.2, 7.9. So you notice that you can build up some big earthquakes here. Let's see when the last one was. Looks like 7.1 back in 2013. Had a couple back in 2013. More specifically at the northern end. But far as the subduction zone level here, it looks like 2007, 1980, 1982. And again, some of these are within that trench zone as well. There's many of them. So, but if you think about this, 2013, 2023, well, that's 10 years. Regular intervals up here look to be like they're around the... There's a little gap right here. 97, 98. Well, it looks like we could be coming up on that time. Looks like most of those intervals of earthquakes are below the 10-year level. So we'll keep an eye on that, considering that deeper couple deeper movement quakes here early this morning. All right, New Zealand, not a whole lot going on there, but we will double check, right? Got to double check New Zealand. 1 minute ago, 1.7. Looks like a couple 2s, some 1s, some 1s. 3.2, about an hour ago. That 5 kilometers deep. There's 4.6 way up on the Kermadec Trench 3 hours ago. I'm really not seeing anything major going on here. Let's see what we got here for earthquake drums. There's North Island, New Zealand, showing a little bit of activity, but also that, on the north side of the North Island area, that will also pick up, though, some movement along the Kermadec Trench. South Island looks fairly quiet, nothing going on, but yeah, a little bit of activity up north, it looks like, throughout the day. More recently this evening, though, looks fairly minimal. All right, moving further to the west. Check out Indonesia area, still rocking quite a bit. Off the coast of Japan, it looks like we had a 5.0 and a 4.4. Kuril Kamchatka Trench sitting up there, just nice and quiet for now. Over here around the Nepal area, we did see this earthquake this morning. Actually, late last night, I should say, 4.6. Some other activity around Iran and Turkey, of course, all showing continual earthquake activity, which is expected considering the movement that's been going on there at larger scale activity recently. Atlantic Ocean has been awfully quiet. Look at that. Goodness. Nothing going on there for now. Alaska and Hawaii doesn't look too active up there. In Alaska, Hawaii about the same. Only got about 10 earthquakes or so on the map. Nothing major. No unusual changes going on there. All right, let's give a quick glance here at the space weather activity from the solarham.net site. And doesn't look like there's any new info on here. Notice the level here of threshold of the GOES X-ray flux chart, well below the C-flare category, entering into the B. That's very minimal activity. It's pretty much flatlined. And that means very dull space weather activity for the foreseeable future. All these sunspots do not harbor anything at all. any kind of potential. This one down here looks like it may be trying to intensify slightly, but you might need a magnifying glass to view that one. That's going to be 3262. All these other sunspots and anything around the bend here. There's not a whole lot coming around the bend. Current flare threat level, 50% chance in flare. You can pretty much count those out. Nothing happening on the Earth-facing side of the sun. And, of course, the aurora tonight, surprisingly, looks like it's a little bit elevated. These things pop up out of the blue for some reason. Looks like a 50% chance possibly up around the Canada entering into the Alaska area. I'm not for sure exactly where this is coming from. But there was it looks like a 40% chance or so of some auroras at the higher latitudes. We did see KP index reach around the 4 within the past couple hours, indicating that elevated activity up there across the higher latitudes. But nothing major forecasted. Be surprised if we get something drastic coming in. I'd be scratching my head on that one. Visible disk. Goodness, it looks like a solar minimum. Not good. I'm sure it will change, folks. Eventually it will. We are entering into solar maximum here in a couple years. Summer 2025 to be exact. So it's going to get active, no doubt. It will definitely kick up here. All right, Storm Prediction Center. Not a whole lot of severe weather over the next couple days. We'll talk about the setup here on day 4 in the coming days once this gets a little bit closer to the to that time frame. It's going to be on Tuesday, a potential severe weather threat setup in the same areas. Talking about Arkansas, Iowa area. Goodness, the same area that got hit by tornadoes here a couple days ago. West Coast activity. Let's go ahead and check this out here along the western coast, see what we got for weather. Got a little cold system dropping in here tomorrow, bringing in some low elevation snow across the area. Not a whole lot of moisture associated with the storm system, so don't really expect too much out here. It looks as though, when is this? April, what is this? Wednesday into April. Looks like the Oregon area going to get a pretty good drenching of rain up here. Not quite making it into Northern California. And after that, goodness, a mixed bag of stuff, it looks like. Looks like we were starting to warm up a little bit here towards the middle of April. It's hard to say this far out, folks. It's just really hard to tell. Either way, the weather's been a crazy, eventful winter. That's for sure here for us in California. Alrighty, guys. Have a good one. Again, stay safe. The best thing you guys can do is have an earthquake plan. Make sure you guys are prepared. And we'll kind of watch this, potential for some deep, larger earthquakes up here in the Pacific Northwest. See if this rings true. With the time frame that we're looking at here, it's been 20-something years since we've had that type of deep movement down there in the Tremor areas. But also, the lack of tremor here recently and the activity back building here out on the plates. It could be a telltale sign here, folks, of some deeper, larger movement about ready to take place in the Cascadia. So we'll watch it, and of course we'll be keeping our eyes on it and seeing how this little theory or thought comes to play. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. Stay safe.